Welcome to another semester at NDU. This is Nail Painting 101, and yes, everything will be on the test.
There's a test? Did you know that?
Hello, my children. Your father has brought you a new nail care video. I know it's time for me to trim my nails when I can pretend to be an ASM artist. Therefore, it's about time for me to trim and overall just refresh my nails. I get lots of comments asking about what I do to take care of my nails, so I figured this would be a good time to share that. But beyond that, I also wanted to share some of my nail painting tips and hacks that I learned over the years. So I started painting my nails back in college as a way to stop me from biting my nails. That was around when Simply Nailogical was the bee's knees, and I was inspired, so I just picked up random polishes that I found at the local drugstore. Now, I don't have any of those anymore because I eventually stopped painting my nails when I started working in a school setting for fear of pushback. But then Holo Taco launched, and I realized how much I really missed having sparkly things on my fingers, and that was what got me back into nail polish. Back then, I would paint my nails on a Friday night, and then I would take them off on Sunday. But then the Panda Express happened, and I was able to keep my nails painted all week because I was able to hide my nails strategically from the camera. And I just loved the sense of expression that nail polish gave me, so when we went back to work, I kept my nails painted, and I haven't looked back since. So my apologies, but I don't know the origins of any of these tips that I learned over the years, but I still wanted to pass this wisdom to y'all. Let's get into it. While you may assume that I may be a nail painting expert, like being a cowboy, I just play one on TV, so these are the techniques that work for me, and I wanted to share them in case you wanted to try them yourself. The first step of any manicure is taking off what you're already wearing, and currently I'm wearing Topaz Tears, which I've had on since last year. On my main hand, I have my playing card manicure inspired by the video game Balatro. Go check out that video to see the trials and tribulations of that nail art, but also I showed a bunch of nail art techniques that you might find interesting as well. Now, to remove nail polish, I use 100% acetone, which I know is a little harsh, but it's really effective. I use a cotton ball, and to get more bang for your buck with one, you can actually unroll it to create a larger surface area to wipe the polish off with. Then I fold it back over itself, apply some acetone to the side, and now I have this giant amount of cotton to use to remove nail polish. Now, to actually take the nail polish off, you want to hold the acetone-soaked cotton ball on the nail for at least a little bit to help dissolve the upper layers of the polish. Then you apply a little bit of pressure and pull the cotton ball down the nail in order to soak up any of the nail polish that got dissolved. I would also recommend you to frequently move the section of cotton ball that you're using to take off nail polish so you always have a fresh piece of cotton for removal. And I don't have to worry if I spill any acetone during this step because I do all of my nail related things over a silicone mat. Not only is it incredibly useful for nail art, it's also another protective measure when taking off nail polish because if you didn't know, acetone can dissolve the varnish on wood. Want an example? Just look at our dining room table. Sorry, husband. Now, my other hand has a foil polish, which like glitter polish is really challenging to remove. One tip that I found works is to put the cotton ball on the nail and just let it sit there for a little bit and do its thing. See how long it takes to remove this one by scrubbing. And now compare it to this one where I had it soaking for a while and see how much quicker it is to remove. You licking? Diane, you licking? And my last step is to grab one final cotton ball with a little bit of acetone to clean up any bits around the edges, the sides of the nail, or even underneath the nail as well.
Cotton ball with a little bit of acetone to...
And yes, I can see you typing those comments now. My nails are very stained, but that's because I paint my nails 2 to 3 times a week. Honestly, I don't mind because it's like a badge of honor to me. Also, I cover it with nail polish anyways, so it doesn't really matter. For trimming, I like to use nail clippers, which I know not everyone in the nail world likes, but the way that I trim my nails is the same way that I take care of my beard, where I just let it get full wolfman for about 3 months, and then I'll finally get it taken care of. Other people like to just file it down each time they paint their nails, but I don't got that kind of time. Now, when clipping, I have to be careful because my skin actually extends out a little bit past the fingertips on the underside of the nails, so I cut them a little further and then I'll shape it later. I typically go in with a cut on either side, and I wouldn't recommend it, but you can gently pull it off if you don't really make those cuts meet. If you ever have any kind of resistance while trying to take the nail off, stop there, cut again. And while filming this, I realized how weird it is that I'm just showing the internet me cutting my nails, so we're gonna speed through this part. And you may have noticed that I cut my right hand a little shorter, and that's because I like to keep my dominant hand on the shorter side so that way I don't have to worry about breaking or damaging it when I'm flailing around at the gym. Okay, now moving on to shaping them. This part takes the longest time, but you have to be patient to get the shape to be even. What I use is a glass nail file, which is honestly a game changer. If you don't have one, I highly recommend trying one. I love it because it essentially never wears down and you really don't have to replace it. I got mine back when Holo Taco first released theirs, so it's been going strong since then. When filing, it is a different feeling than when using something like an emery board that does take some getting used to. My husband hated it at first, and now he loves it. And now he tolerates it. I personally like a more flattened square shape, so I start by filing perpendicular to the nail. And I keep going until I smoothed out the curve that I made while cutting. I also hold the file slightly angled away to get a little bit of the underside as well. Then I go in and slightly round the edges. I hold the file on the side of the nail, and I make sweeping motions moving my way to the top of the nail, trying to curve the edge that I formed. Notice that I don't stay very long on the sides of the nail because I'm purposely trying to avoid making something like a coffin shape, which you're welcome to enjoy that, but it's not the shape that I'm going for. Though I will say, starting with a square, you can always go down to a coffin if you accidentally damage your nail. See my pointer finger prior to this, which was a totally different shape from all of the other fingers on my hand. And this was incredibly difficult to do on camera and keep everything in focus, but one way to help get the sides of the nail is you pull the finger away from the nail and you can hold the nail file in line with the nail to start, and then you keep making your way around to curve the edge. If you don't do that, you can accidentally create a gap from where the nail is growing and where you're filing it, like you can see here. Now the file has a tendency to make your nails really sharp, so I use a small buffing pad to try to smooth things out a little bit. I got a billion of these from Amazon because they're really cheap, and it's helpful to get a bunch because they're really only useful for about 2 or 3 times. I also find that the buffing pad works really well to get the little bit of nail crusties out from underneath your nail that accumulate while filing. And you have to remove those before painting because if the polish sticks to that means it's not actually sticking to your nail and it could lift and make your manicure not last as long. Quick pause, Titan was really cute while I was editing this video, so I had to show it off now. Anyways, back to the video. And here's where we are right now, where you can see my hand that I shaped and the other hand that I didn't even start. You can cut them pretty sloppily. As long as you take your time while filing, you can make them look great in the end. Also, another recommendation is hold your fingers palm side up, so that way you can compare all of the fingers at the exact same time. You might have noticed, but my ring finger has slightly sharper corners than the other fingers, so I went back in and filed the edges a little bit more to make them match a little better. And before we start painting, my last hack that I want to give is scratch your nails on something like your pants, so that way you can get any little bits of nail that came out when you were filing that are stuck underneath your nail. You could also just wash your hands. No, actually you don't want to wash your hands. You want your nail to be as dry as possible when you're painting, so that way the nail polish sticks to it as best as possible.
Yeah, but like using antibacterial soap so it's dry.
That's an oil-based soap. All soap is oil-based.
You're oil base.
So I'm going to talk about base coats now. Now, there are plenty of base coats that you can choose from, but I'm going to choose a long-lasting base to make sure that this manicure lasts until I'm ready to paint again. And while you're painting the base coat, don't forget to wrap the tip of your nail as well. What that means is you want to put polish on the front tip of your nail and not just on the top of it. You want to do that because the tip of your nail is typically where the polish will wear out first, and so not only does it give it an extra layer of protection, if you don't have polish there, that means you're giving a spot for water or oil to get in, which will cause the nail polish to lift and chip off of your nail. Honestly, it's probably the #1 hack to help make a manicure last longer. So moving on to what I'm painting, today I'm using the Devil Strikes When the Devil Strikes by Mooncat. This is a black jelly polish with gold foil in it, and I'm pretty obsessed with it, but I haven't gotten the chance to wear it since I picked it up at Mooncat's lunar sale. Now, when actually applying the polish, you want to remove some off the brush because there's way too much there to paint your nails neatly. The first thing I do is when taking the brush out of the bottle is I use a spiral motion, trying to get any of the polish off of the stick of the brush itself. Then I run one side of the brush on the inner part of the nail polish bottle to take off effectively half of the polish that's on the brush. The side with the polish is the side that I used for the painting. To actually start painting, I put the polish in the back center of the nail and then slowly work my way back towards the cuticle. Then, I drag the brush forwards. I repeat this with either side of the nail and maybe one extra swipe down the middle just to clean everything up. And don't forget to wrap the tip. You never want to overwork a polish as you run the risk of accidentally picking up some of what you just laid or a previous layer. So the less swipes of the brush the better. I think on average I probably did about 4.2 swipes per nail for this manicure. fractions. And I can't believe I'm gonna show this on camera, but my tips for painting my non-dominant hand is to actually use the dominant hand while doing the painting. I first use little motions to get the brush into place, and then I pull my dominant hand back instead of pulling my non-dominant hand down the nail. I find that I have more control that way, especially at the edges of the nail. That said, I've gotten better over time, so I can paint my right hand the same way as I can paint my left hand. But remember, I've been painting my nails pretty consistently for the past 5 years or so don't expect things to look perfect if you only paint your nails maybe once or every other week. Remember that practice makes progress.
Might be very silence. Nobody's perfect.
But for every mistake, there's a cleanup brush. One of my go-to nail painting supplies is a cleanup brush and a little bottle of acetone. What I do is I dip the cleanup brush into the acetone, wipe off the excess, and then I use the sharp fine tip of the cleanup brush to try to remove any of the polish that got on my skin. My favorite cleanup brush is by Jessie Monroe Nail Care because even though I got this maybe a year ago, it still has a super sharp point and it works perfectly. Check out my affiliate link below if you want to pick one up yourself. Now this polish is a matte polish, which means it doesn't dry with that typical glossy effect that you see in nail polish. Now I love me some matte polish, but the biggest problem with it is it's super vulnerable to dents while it's drying because you don't have that protective factor coming from something like a quick drying top coat. So there's nothing stopping you from adding a quick drying top coat on top of matte polish. And you could stop here if you like the glossy version of the polish more than the matte version, but I personally like the matte one more, so I'm going to add a matte top coat in order to keep the glossy top coat's protective factor, but have the matte effect. You do have to be careful when covering the glossy top coat with the matte top coat because if you aren't fully covering the nail, there may be some little glossy moments that sneak out around the edges. But hey, it's worth the protection of the top coat in my opinion. And then finally, oil them nails. Are you oiling your nails, Titan? Nail oil helps hydrate your nails and cuticles. You know how in winter months when you get those little peelies on your cuticles and you grab it and you pull it and you peel it off and it kind of feels like you're about to unwrap your entire skin? Well, nail oil helps prevent that. I oil my nails like 2 to 3 times a day, sometimes more. Honestly, I just do it when I'm bored, which I think helps a lot. Also, if your nails are long, oiling them helps a lot, especially oiling the underside because it helps the nails stay hydrated and flexible, so if you bash them into something, they bend instead of snap. Let me know in the comments below if you learned something new today, if I gave you any tips that you absolutely swear by, or if there's something that works for you that I didn't bring up. And don't forget to like and subscribe down below because it really helps a lot. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.
Can we put his hoodie on?